you flip your page again to the next page, I'm going to get my notes here. Aesop, by the way, which I didn't realize it, and this isn't a test, so I won't test you. He lived in 620 to 560 BCE and was in Asia Minor. And Aesop's fables are fables to teach children what the norms are, what morality is. Okay, so if you think about it, the idea of strategic storytelling, telling a story with an intention of making an impression or getting people to make a decision or do something is as old as human beings are. And older than our actual written language, because obviously there were storytellers before there was written language. So I brought that as an example. If we move into modern times, and I've been doing this storytelling stuff. I was in the theater. So then obviously theater is a story place, right? Well, then you come into this kind of work. And I found this book when I started working in businesses. Armstrong International, Armstrong Flooring. This is David Armstrong, the owner. In 1992, he wrote this book. He was sitting in church, listening to his minister tell a story at a sermon. And he said it went from everybody fast asleep to all of a sudden he looked around and people were awake. And it hit him that people listen to stories. They don't listen to sermons, they listen to stories. And this book, and this is one of at least two that he wrote, is their HR policy manual, written almost like an Aesop fable. Every policy has one page with a moral. How much money should you spend when you're on a trip? There's a story and the moral of the story. And so basically he wrote the policy manual as a storybook and called it Managing by Storying Around. A few of us listen to NPR, StoryCorps. If you're like me, it gets the tears going with the coffee on Saturday morning. Their purpose for this was to celebrate stories of everyday people. And they set up the shop in the Grand Central Station in New York. And they basically, I didn't realize this, but if you do the StoryCorps, they record your story and you get a disc with your voice and the person you recorded. And then they put one at the library in DC to collect everyday stories. And the question, or the story I just told you about my backyard and the pool, came from the back of this book, because of course then they tell you how to go collect stories. So there's a lot of great ideas in this book about how to do this. And one was, ask the person what a perfect day as a kid was. And that was my perfect day. So the story, came out of this. Another thing is, when I went into business, I started creating story teams in companies. And the story teams developed strategic plans around their stories. What were their experiences? What did they want to change? And you'll see in your handout it says strategic planning, sales, corporate culture. And I just brought you a couple examples. This was a CD created by IntelliTouch that was an online realty company. And what they did is they collected stories from their customers, put it on a CD, and had it at their trade shows. So you go home and you pop in the story while you're driving home and you listen to what customers are saying about them. Online right now every day, I get a story from a place called charity.org, or it's on there too, sorry, Charity Focus or Daily Good. These are folks that are using the internet to tell stories about people who are doing great things around the country. And it's the whole phrase from Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world, that's their theme. So every day there's a new story. And one that came up last week was a consultant telling a company if they wanted to change how fun it was to go to work, they needed to stop telling the bad stories and start finding good stories and change their world by telling different stories. At our neighborhood meeting a couple months ago, we had this discussion that how often the stories we tell about Lansing is everything that's bad. And so we feed the stories of what's wrong. And people don't know what's going on good. They only know that somebody got shot or something horrible happened, and so then they stay home. They don't get on the river trail or go to the park. Research actually shows us that if you have a bad experience, you will tell that story 8 times. If you have a good experience, you'll have a good time and probably not talk about it very much.